A very good evening and welcome to the Metropol Sports Center, the first of its kind, or the first sports show to occupy the primetime segment in Kenya. As always, we're all about money and sports. We're about the business of sports. We're about chums and sports. Depends on what time you call money. Today we're going to be talking about the Mashemeji Derby. We're going to be talking about some rugby. We're going to be talking about Formula One, football, and we have two hot interviews lined up for you. But first, I am Ngaro Kamuya.
And I'm Sharon Alela.
So Sharon, how's the week taking you?
The week has been hectic but nice.
Yeah.
A lot of sporting action going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah, definitely looking forward to the weekend.
That's true. A lot of sporting action has been happening. So first, of course, the Mashemeji Derby saw it happening last weekend. Gor Mahia trouncing AFC Leopards 3-1. A goal by Nicholas, or goals rather, by Nicholas Kipkurui and Jacques Tuisenge. Gor Mahia, of course, have won the Kenya Premier League. What do you think about what has been their season? This weekend, of course, is expected to be their coronation. What do you think has been their season? Where do you think they've got it right? And where do you think the other teams have got it wrong?
I think Gor Mahia is a legendary team, and we have to view it for what it is. Gor Mahia is an African giant, okay? We have a few bumps on the road when it comes to Kenyan football, but we need not to forget how big Gor Mahia is as a club. I mean, look at the journey to the quarterfinals of the Confederations Cup. The CAF Confederations Cup, and how what Gor Mahia did to Zamalek at Kasarani, yeah? And winning the league, 18th title. This is amazing for Gor Mahia. And very interesting statistics. Gor Mahia has won a league for the third time in a row, consecutive, in 3 different occasions. Yeah. That's in 1985, 86, 87. 2013, 14, 15, and of course 2017, 18, and 19. If you ask me, we say Gor Mahia is an African giant. Eastern Central Africa, Gor Mahia is untouchable, and definitely kudos to the Gor Mahia coach, who was also named the coach of the month, and of course for what he's done for the team. He's done an amazing job. 2 games to go. Gor Mahia has lifted the title, and we definitely look forward to next season, because the season is pretty much done, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, we're talking about finals. Let's go back now to a game that is very close to your heart.
Yes.
Look at you beaming just because of that. The Kenya Cup finals were last weekend in Kakamega. And of course, KCB doing the business, 23-15 against Cabras Sugar. Tell us more about the rugby season and what it's been and what to look forward to next season. I mean,
Cabras have invested a lot. They brought 3 South Africans. There was Claudia Hansen, Mario Wilson, and Logan Basson. In the middle of the season, at least when KCB met Cabras in the middle of the season, I think Logan Basson saw how tough the Kenya Cup was, and he went back to South Africa.
Yes.
They also brought Henley Duplessis, who's their coach, and he's a South African coach, has been associated with the former Kenya Simbas coach, Jerome Pavata. So everyone expected that Cabras were going to win. They've invested heavily this season. But while they invested heavily, they forgot that also KCB are investing. I mean, they had a 10-day camp in South Africa where they played against the Stormers of the Western Province. They were hosted by the Western Province Rugby Union. And that has gone a long way into KCB's season. Now, what people forget also is that KCB has a group of players who are very experienced, and the senior players are very experienced, both at club and international level.
Yeah, and that was the next question I was going to ask you. What makes KCB such a superior team?
It's just the experience, like I'm telling you. There are players who are experienced at club and international level. A core of the team, I think in the team that in the last 2 years, maybe 15 of the 23 have been KCB players. So that's what they had on the day, championship mentality. I mean, when you get to knockout football or knockout rugby is football, rugby football, it's always about, who has it on the day. And that's what KCB have been able to prove over the last 4-5 years. They've won the Kenya Cup four times in the last 5 years. So kudos to KCB. Definitely a class above the rest. And Cabras, I mean, they fought hard, they fought well, but they just fell short on the day.
And now because Sports Central is all about the money and the sport, right? Do you think money played any part in the KCB's success compared to Cabras or the other teams within?
Of course it did. Money did play a part because, like I've said, first, KCB had a 10-day camp in Cape Town at the beginning of the season. That was their pre-season. They are paying their players okay, Cabras are the ones who are better than KCB, but KCB are paying their players,
Yes.
quite well. So remuneration is something attractive. Many of those players actually work for the bank, or they have some employment that's facilitated by KCB. So look, it's a business of sports. The reason why these two teams were able to get to the finals is because they're already looking at sports as a business. Cabras, 18 of their players are contracted, full-time professionals. For KCB, like I'm telling you, they're on remuneration. So look, you have to invest in sports if indeed you want to get the results that you want. We're still in rugby, and we're now moving on to the women's side. We're moving on to 15s rugby, and the Kenya Lionesses have been training, or they're in training, because the Rugby World Cup, the Women's Rugby World Cup, will be happening in 2021. Before we get into our discussion, let's see what our team was able to pull in the field when they went to see the Kenya Lionesses training.
Times it's quite a challenge for them to be because, as we all know, it's not professional thing, but slowly we'll get there. So when it comes to the other players, some of them have a challenge in terms of transport. So you can't know if one made the previous night, as we don't want to try as much as possible to push them, because we really want to get something out of them.
The truth is, it's extremely tough to try and balance, work. Some of us are going to work, you're coming here to train, and you also have school. So it's really hard to juggle, but at the end of the day, it's all about priority. You have to go to work, of course, to get bread. And I know that we can't, we're not at the level which the men are, that's where we want to get at. And how will we do that? If we win games. So for us as players, our main aim right now is to just show the union that we're up for the task. We're just as good as the men. I believe we've been able to show that. I think you've been seeing our games. So we're coming up, as our coach always says, in leaps and bounds. And I know that we're getting there. And even as we win the games, I believe the union will have trust in us to get, to get time to get our own sponsors. If we get our own sponsors, that means we'll be able to get paid. Of course, we don't get paid. We get paid maybe allowances, training allowances and game allowances, but we don't have a salary per se to play the game. So if we can get to that level, that means we'll at least be semi-professional. You can leave your job and come and give it, give rugby your all. And I think that will only be growing the sport.
Since
this remuneration thing, it's a never-ending song. What are your thoughts about their chances of qualifying? What are your thoughts about the environment that the Kenya Lionesses have been given to try and qualify for the Rugby World Cup in 2021?
We have seen this over and over when it comes to Kenyan sports, and we've seen it with the starlets as well, that the women's sport is not taken as seriously as the men's sport. Now, in this case, the question is, will the union take care of them if they're not able to fully take care of the men? And they definitely view the men's sport, they view it in higher regard. That's the question. And that's definitely something we're looking to see in the near future. But I think they deserve, they go out there to give the country their best, and they definitely need to be remunerated as they deserve. Yes.
That's true. I do agree with you. Yeah, on that one I do agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this week has been, as we look forward to the Monaco Grand Prix, we are mourning Formula One legend. Okay?
Yeah.
We are mourning Niki Lauda, and he's known for his bravery. He's known for the 1976 Ferrari accident that almost costed him his life. And in the process of healing and coming back strong, he taught us what it means, what bravery and resilience really means in sport. And of course, being the non-executive chairman of Mercedes, this week is very big, of course, as we head over to Monaco. What are your thoughts on mourning a leader like this, the stakes for Mercedes this weekend, and of course for Ferrari, because that was his first team?
I mean, the first thing you said, Niki Lauda is famed because of the 1976 crash at the German Grand Prix. He's a three-time world champion. And at the time when he had his crash, he actually recovered and got back onto the race in 6 weeks.
Yes.
For those of you who know Niki Lauda very well, the one thing that was common with him is that he always had a cap on, and that was because of the burns that he sustained during that crash. Like you've said, he was also the non-executive chairman of Mercedes, and I was watching Toto Wolff, who's the principal at Mercedes, talking about how it's going to be hard not having Niki Lauda by his side. By then, I must add, Niki Lauda was a recipient of the Laureus Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016.
Yes.
The awards were hosted in Berlin. So Toto Wolff is saying that it's going to be a tough one for Mercedes. Of course, Mercedes flag bearer, for lack of a better word, or the flagship driver, Lewis Hamilton, also had a very close relationship with Niki Lauda.
And he was very instrumental in bringing Hamilton to the team.
Exactly, to
Yes.
Mercedes, of course, Hamilton moving from McLaren. So Hamilton has also been very focused. His car has some messages to, Niki Lauda, danke nicht, Niki, of course, that's German, thank you, Niki. And it's going to be an interesting one. Of course, Monaco, from a business perspective, the one that attracts the royalty. We've seen Prince Albert of Monaco attending the Monaco Grand Prix. We've seen Tom Brady, quarterback of the New England Patriots, time and time again at the Monaco Grand Prix. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. Whether it's going to be Mercedes 1-2 again, because the battle is between Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton,
Yes.
that is going to be interesting. But I would like to see the others actually mount a challenge. I'd like to see Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc of Ferrari mount a challenge. I'd like to see also Daniel Ricciardo of Renault, who's had a very disappointing season so far. So I'd like to see him mount a challenge. And actually, it's getting tiring.
Yeah.
Just seeing Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas in.
And you know what? I'm actually looking forward to. I don't know if you watched the Laureus Awards 2019. It was in Monaco as well. And the views within that whole city
Yeah.
and the environment, it's such a beautiful place
Yes.
for any sporting event.
Yes.
And they usually have this, the build up to the main event, and they show you all the beautiful views.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I'm looking forward to.
It's a playground of the rich. That's what they normally see. That's Monaco. People are watching the F1 on their yachts and everything. So we move on to the NBA. We're still playoff time. It's a conference semifinals. Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
Up against Portland Trailblazers. Now, the story from the semifinals was, of course, Kevin Durant was injured. And Kevin Durant has been their best rim protector. His 67% field goal percentage. And he's been their main star. But then the Golden State Warriors, without Kevin Durant, go ahead and sweep the Portland Trailblazers. To our viewers, those who don't understand basketball, sweep means 4-0. A series has 7
Take it all.
games. You take it all. And that's what the Golden State Warriors have done.
Yes.
So what do you think about the fact that they did not have to play with Kevin Durant and they ended up sweeping the Portland Trailblazers?
This was the most amazing thing to watch about the GSW without Kevin Durant. Half of the NBA analysts, all right, half of the big analysts could actually almost swore that it was almost impossible for them to perform like this. But it seems like the Kevin Durant absence gave them something, gave them a push to go beyond, and they were definitely the play was definitely so good to watch, and it was very surprising. I mean, the Rockets were given a chance against them. They didn't take it. That you could argue it both ways. The Rockets didn't take the chance, or Golden State Warriors were just too good for them. But either way, Golden State Warriors are definitely a championship team, and we're looking forward to seeing what comes to the finals.
Of course, the Golden State Warriors are going for their third title in a row, having won the 2017 and 2018 NBA championship. If they do it, they'll only be the third team to have completed what's commonly known in basketball as a three-peat. You have the Boston Celtics of the 1960s, you have the Chicago Bulls of the 1990s, and the Los Angeles Lakers of the 2000s. Now, Eastern Conference, that's where all the action is. And I know you're happy because your team is here. Toronto Raptors versus the Milwaukee Bucks, Game 5. Toronto winning 105, winning that game 105-99. Kawhi Leonard, who's the star for the Toronto Raptors, dropping 35 points. Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's the star for the Milwaukee Bucks, having a relatively disappointing game by his standards, only getting 24 points. Just some stats to read for you. 36.9% field goal percentage for the Toronto Raptors, up against 45.2% for the Milwaukee Bucks. What's interesting for me is that in terms of a three-point percentage, the Toronto Raptors had a 41.9% up against the 32.3% for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, they were playing in Milwaukee, and everyone expected that, look, Bucks were going to protect their home court. That wasn't the case.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
And that was the biggest fear for all Raptors fans, the fact that you're going to play at their home court. But something happened after game 2 that was, you could see after game 2. Kawhi Leonard was toe-to-toe with Giannis. Giannis was just roaming the place. And it's very evident that without Giannis, the Bucks are not really the Bucks, the Bucks we're seeing now. But Raptors have figured out a way of dealing with Giannis. And Kawhi has gone, you can see the resilience in the Raptors team. They've gone over and beyond to really play, to really bring this home. And we have to give it to the NBA Africa office and the entire NBA for bringing the game very close to the Sub-Saharan Africa fans. I don't know if you've been watching, but it's like 3 a.m. in the morning. But the number of Kenyans watching the NBA playoffs is amazing. Kenyans love the game. It's been amazing waking up to watch the playoffs. And the Raptors, the number of Kenyans rooting for the Raptors is just unbelievable. Of course, this is a very resilient team. One of my friends was saying the other day, you see a team that has fought to get to where they are, as opposed to the Bucks. And this is definitely something. The next game goes to Toronto. And I don't know if you saw the atmosphere in Toronto the other day and the number of people watching outside, but this is something definitely worth watching. Yes. It
is definitely something worth watching. And like you're saying, I mean, from an African perspective, you have the fact that I think the Toronto Raptors has the biggest representation of Africans on the team.
Yes.
With Pascal Siaka and Bismarck Biyombo. And Serge Ibaka, by the way, who's originally from Congo. Plays for Spain now. So it's very interesting. And it ties into our next topic because we have what's going to be called the Basketball Africa League.
Yes.
Currently, as we speak, FIBA's biggest tournament, FIBA is the basketball organization, governing body in the world. So FIBA's flagship tournament, or the biggest tournament on the continent is happening right now in Luanda, Angola.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts about that tournament?
The most interesting part about this tournament is the North African teams are really trying so hard to beat Angola's best basketball team. All right, they're trying, which has been winning for I think 8 for this, which would have registered or would register a 9th win. Tomorrow if they get to the finals. But this weekend in Angola, in Luanda, Angola, is really a celebration of basketball on the continent. Of course, as we look forward to the Basketball Africa League, which takes off in 2020, a collaboration between FIBA and the NBA. So basketball is really growing on the continent at a very fast pace. And Luanda now is a whole spectacle. Everybody is all about basketball this weekend.
And for those guys who don't know, actually, Angola have featured at the Olympics. They have been Africa's representative at the Olympics for very many times. A game I'd ask you to go watch is the 1992 Olympics between the Dream Team and Angola. That was a very interesting game. Charles Barkley, of course, being Charles Barkley and causing drama, being the drama king that he is.
Yes. Oh, that was a amazing game to watch.
That's true.
Yes. So now let's move over to UEFA, Europa finals.
Yes.
So before we move into that, let's talk about our lady or a woman who's making headlines this week, and that's Emma Hayes, who is the Chelsea women's coach. All right. Now Emma Hayes presented her name for consideration, of course, amidst the rumors that Mauricio Sarri, the current Chelsea coach, might be leaving. All right, and this is something we've said here over and over, that the chemistry between Chelsea and Mauricio Sarri has not been right, and of course there's so many speculations about him leaving. Now this is a woman wanting to come into men's football. What are your thoughts on women running
Look,
male sports.
It's not going to be the first time, at least for a woman being involved in the men's side, at least at Chelsea.
Yes.
You remember they had the very hot doctor a few years ago who was, the eyes, I mean, very many people's eyes were on the bench just to see the doctor, right? So it's not
Yes.
going to be the first time that a woman is going to be involved on the tech bench for Chelsea. I think it's a good move. If she has the credentials, if she has it in herself, of course she's guided Chelsea, the women's team, to number 3 in the league. If she has it and she meets the criteria, then of course I think it would be very bad for the board not to
give it to her,
to
consider her.
Exactly, to consider her for that job. But it should be an interesting one. We should see how it pans out.
And something else that happened there 2 days ago, as she was making headlines for wanting to coach Chelsea, she made a statement and said the goals in women's football should be reduced in sizes because the physicalities of men and women in football are totally different. Now this is even more controversial. I think just equally as controversial because we always say what a man can do, a woman can do, and that's the argument, of course, on Twitter and everywhere else. But do you think that the women's goals in football should be reduced based on, say, for example, the jumping range between male and female football players?
I don't think it should be reduced. And the reason I say this is a few years back, trying to remember which World Cup it was. I suspect it was the 2015 Women's World Cup when the US won it. And the US have had some very brilliant players who can comfortably fit into a male team. I think about the 99 World Cup, they had Mia Hamm. In that 2015 World Cup, they had Abby Wambach, who I consider to be a very brilliant player, who I think can slot into any man's team.
Yes.
So I don't think, whatever she's suggesting, whatever she's saying, I don't think they should do it because we've been able to see women measure up to the men's standard. So I don't think they should do it.
And the other argument was women or humans are generally growing taller than they did before. So if you're talking about jumping range, what about a shorter man and a taller woman? Yeah, within the game.
It doesn't make sense. So I think they should stick to what it is right now.
Yeah. So let's move now to Chelsea and Arsenal facing it off in Azerbaijan, in Baku. Now, we've had controversy, of course, because Arsenal are leaving behind Mkhitaryan, obviously because he's Armenian.
Yes.
Okay? And because of the political differences between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Do you think it's valid? Do you think him staying back is valid?
Look,
His reasons, rather.
Yeah, I mean, there's geopolitics to be involved, and there's geopolitics to be considered when you discuss on matters football, because the truth and the fact of the matter is that Armenia and Azerbaijan do not get along. Being former Soviet states, they do not get along. So I understand where he's coming from, and the reason I say that is because I've seen even less reasons for players being left behind. For those people who've watched football for a while, Arsenal had a player in the 90s and the 2000s called Dennis Bergkamp, who never used to travel for away games because he was afraid of flying.
Yes.
So I think it's a valid decision. I think it's a valid point by Henrik Mkhitaryan not to travel to Azerbaijan. It's unfortunate, but look, no one could predict that there was going to be an Armenian in the final, and therefore they needed to move the final from Baku. And I think it's good for the game if Azerbaijan actually hosts the final. Now,
the other argument is UEFA saw this coming. They can't say they didn't see it before, because last year he didn't travel for the same reasons to Baku for the same reasons. So I think the governing bodies or whoever is in charge of picking, they say they don't want to pick all central locations all the time, but whoever is in charge of picking locations for such competitions in the near future has to, I think we're going to see that come into consideration more, because there are very many countries, especially in Europe, that have issues amongst themselves, political issues. And I don't think you can really separate sports from politics and politics from sport. Maybe you can, but for this reason, I think there are people who use their political differences or use sports to air their political differences.
It's a catch-22, and it's something you have to weigh. If I'm UEFA, then there's nothing much I can do about it. And that's my opinion, because the way I look at it, you have one person against the greater good of the game.
Yes.
It moving to Baku, it moving to Kiev, it moving to those politically hot spots is good for the game. So, like I'm saying, it's a balance of probabilities. It's a catch-22, and you have to weigh the pros and cons. The game stands to gain more by it going to Baku than Henrik Mkhitaryan not going for the finals, number one. Number two, you cannot predict that Henrik Mkhitaryan is going to make it to the finals. And as such, these venues are set way before the tournament starts. So there's nothing much you can do about that. It's unfortunate. Maybe then the countries go and sort out their issues so that we don't have to deal with these issues on a day-to-day basis.
Who do you predict to win? Arsenal or Chelsea?
I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'm going to predict, of course, that Arsenal are going to. I'm going to predict that Arsenal are going to win. We take a short break. When you're back, we're going to be having an interview with Dr. Edwin Boyd, a sports scientist in Nairobi. Don't go away.